Hello everyone! This is not how I was expecting to make a comeback on my YouTube, but I've been meaning to do... Hello. There you go. I've been meaning to do this video ever since she was born. It's been a rough ride. The last video I did, I was 25 weeks pregnant in the video, and she's now 10 weeks old today. So it's been a while. We didn't actually make it to 40 weeks pregnant. We made it to 37 weeks. There's been a whole disaster. Well, not a disaster, because obviously she came out. She's absolutely fine. She's healthy. But it was just very traumatic. And I'm going to tell you all about it. So first of all, I wanted to say hello. We're okay. Like I said, I didn't expect to have such a long break from YouTube, and in my head I wanted to be all like, you know, dolled up for this video and makeup, hair, you know, I wanted to look my best self. And it sort of hit me a few weeks ago now. I was like, I'm not going to be able to film this video looking like that. It's just not doable when you've got a newborn. So I was like, I'm just going to find the best opportunity when she's not crying, I am dressed, and just get on with it. And it seems to be the perfect time today, because we've basically done our day's plans. She's just been fed. She's just had a nappy change. And she is supposed to be falling asleep, which I'm hoping, whilst I'm rocking her, she will fall asleep in this video. Why are you breathing so loud? So, just before she does go to sleep, you're looking really comfortable, and I don't want to like distress you, but this is our girl. She needs a good cough. So this is Ava Grace Rose Ward. We went with the name Ava. If you follow my Instagram, Life with Sim X, then I announced like her arrival on there when it actually happened. So if you have me on Instagram, you'll know that she's like 10 weeks old today. But if you're not on Instagram and you don't have me on Instagram, you might be like, what in the world has gone on? So, should we tell them? Say, hold on. She's getting there with her head control. Say, hello everybody. Oh, say hi. She is tired. Ooh, but she's been fighting her sleep last night. We had to take her on a drive in Daddy's car. Yes, we did. We had to take her on a drive in Daddy's car because she wasn't having any of it last night. She got all worked up, but then she had a really good sleep once we had the drive. So I think that may be something to do in the future. But yeah, so the beginning of my birth story pretty much is... Why are you spitting your diddy out? Come on. Yeah, beginning of the birth story. Basically what happened was I went for my 34-week midwife appointment, and my midwife, well, what was my midwife, she does her clinic appointments on a Thursday. And when we went on the Thursday, obviously she took my blood pressure, and she said that my blood pressure was on the high side. She said, I will do it again at the end of the appointment, but if it is higher, if the lower number is higher than 90, then they had to send me, like, basically refer me to the hospital to go to the MAU, which is the maternity assessment unit. I almost forgot then. I spent enough time in there. I should know what it's called. And yeah, so me and Dom, we blamed it on the fact that all of my other appointments were like before work, because it would be like in the morning, and then I'd go to work like from 12 o'clock onwards, like PM. But I had been to work that morning and I'd just finished work, and obviously it had been a stressful morning. I thought I was going to be late for the appointment, so my blood pressure was high. We thought it was because of that. And then I mentioned to my manager that I had to take my rings off of my hands because my hands were like swelling up basically, which a little bit of swelling in pregnancy is normal. It's mainly in the feet that you get it, or in your face. However, it started off in my hands. So even my manager said, oh, did they check your urine? Was like, there any problem with that? And I was like, yeah, there was no problem with my urine. They always say that I've got protein in it anyway, because I'm like prone to water infections basically. And I think I had 2 water infections whilst I was pregnant that I know of. One of them I didn't even feel. Like, they did a dipstick test and was like, you've got a water infection. And I was like, what? Normally I feel them. So yeah. So they wanted, we checked it again on, 10 minutes after the first one. Probably wasn't actually 10 minutes. And she said, right, it is high, so you need to come back in 48 hours, which I then thought she was going to turn around and say, oh, you can't because the doctors are not open on a Saturday. I had to go to a different place, which is like 15 minutes down the road, so it wasn't too bad. And she said, if your blood pressure is still the same, then you'll have to be referred to the hospital. So Thursday and Friday, I was just trying to be chill at work. And then Saturday, the appointment, it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. We didn't get seen until like an hour after our appointment because it was so busy. People had called in sick. And yeah, I said, I literally just need a blood pressure check. So they were like, oh, we'll quickly do you now, because there was like so many people waiting. That is when they did my blood pressure. It was still high. And they mentioned, like, obviously pre-eclampsia. So I was like, right, okay, this is like, the only thing that I'd heard about pre-eclampsia was from Dom's mum. She had pre-eclampsia with him, and he was born at 30 weeks because she was really poorly, via C-section. And that panicked me because I thought, I'm 34 weeks pregnant. I do not want to have this baby just yet. As much as I was excited to meet her, I called my mum in the car on the way to the hospital and my dad. And my mum goes, how are you feeling? Are you excited? And in my brain, I just sort of went, I'm not having this baby yet. I can't physically have this baby yet. It's like, I can't, it's too early. So I was like panicked, I was overwhelmed, blah, blah, blah. Got to the hospital and they sent me to a different hospital, to the one that I was technically planned to give birth at, because my hospital, the MAU was closed because of an incident, which I don't know what that was. I don't know what happened, but there was an incident there. So I had to go to a different hospital, which was pretty much the same distance anyway, which I think I do want to give birth at next time. Like, I'm not saying I'm pregnant. I'm definitely not pregnant. But obviously we do want to grow our family more, as like when she gets older, I will probably choose the other hospital because I've had enough time spent at the hospital I gave birth in, and I do not want to go into that hospital again if I can help it. So yeah, went to the hospital, sat down in this like really comfy leather chair, got hooked up to a baby monitor where they put like straps around your belly just to monitor her and her movement and her heart rate. She was fine. And they hooked me up to like a blood pressure thing where they took my blood pressure like automatically every 10 minutes. And I think we were there for about an hour or two, and then we got sent home because my blood pressure came down like on its own. So we were fine. Then the next week I was booked in. So this is coming up to the 9th of January now. The appointment that happened that I've just told you about was the 2nd, 3rd of January. The Thursday was the 2nd. And then I think I was in hospital the Saturday. So that would have been the 4th. Yeah. So, yeah, it was just a bit of a nightmare. I got booked into the hospital for a hypertension clinic on the 9th of January. And I never came back out of hospital apart from one night because they thought my blood pressure was pretty much controlled. And at this point I was like, I want to go home. I want to prepare stuff for my baby. Yes, we'll get into that. So I got admitted to the hospital on the 9th of January when I was I would have been 35 weeks at this point actually. And this was because they measured my urine sample and there was 3 times too much protein in my urine. I'm sorry if you can hear this rattling, by the way. It's my ring. Every time I pat her, it like makes a noise. Sorry about that. Yeah, so there was three times too much urine. Urine in my protein in my urine. Hello, you need to go to sleep. And my blood pressure, it was still high. It was not going down. So we spoke to the doctor and the doctor said, how are you feeling? And I said, well, I'm feeling fine in myself. And then Dom looked at me and he was like, be honest. And the doctor said to Dom, what do you mean? So, hey, it's okay. She's fighting sleep a lot recently. You don't have to go to sleep, but you seem tired. But okay, if you don't, do you want your dummy? You're just tying it. So, yeah, pretty much he said, oh, she's got swelling in her feet, which I did at that point. Swelling in my hands that I've had to take my jewellery off. And I had swelling in my face at that point as well. Which she said, right, okay. Excuse me, I'm talking to our friends. Do you want to talk to our friends too? Is that your problem? It's okay. So yeah, there was all of this swelling going on. You are tired because you're yawning. And I'd had flashing lights as well that was like affecting my vision. I'd had that twice in the shower and didn't think anything of it. They actually blamed it on low blood pressure. So it was like, right, okay. So there was flashing lights, there was headaches, and there was swelling. And obviously I was tired from being pregnant anyway. But they basically said, because of them symptoms, we're going to admit you into the hospital. So I was like, oh, okay, this is scary. At that time, I'd literally packed my hospital bags the night before because I was like, if there is a chance that I'm going to be admitted, we need the bags. Luckily, Dom had bought the bags with us. So it was like, okay, you're going to be admitted into hospital. Dom was going to get the bags out of the car. And then that was it. I'd got my own little bed in like a little small room. Obviously, blood tests were taken, blah, blah, blah. I had to have an iron, I think they called it an infusion, but basically I had to have iron like in a cannula in my hand, back of my hand, put in me because my iron levels were like dangerously low. And they basically said, we're going to induce you when you hit 37 weeks, or if your symptoms are basically, you've practically got pre-eclampsia, if your symptoms get worse, then we'll try and induce you with the space. So I was like, oh, okay. And I was we didn't have a clue what being induced really meant. We were sort of a bit silly, and we thought, oh, if we're getting induced on this day, that means that the baby's definitely going to come on this day, which is not always obviously the case. So we got sent home, I think it was 5 days later. We got sent home for the night. I didn't think I was going to end up going back in, but they said to me, the midwife is going to come to you tomorrow morning and check your blood pressure. And at this point, I'd been on blood pressure medication. I can't even remember what the medication was called, but it's like a little red tablet. And at first I got put on 100 milligrams, and then they doubled it because they noticed that it didn't even touch me. So I was on this little red tablet. I think at first it was twice a day. So the morning that the midwife came to me, I'd not long took my tablet, like 10 minutes before she arrived. And it normally takes about, at least for me, about an hour and a half for it to actually fully kick in and work. So when she took my blood pressure readings at my house, literally I just woke up, took my blood pressure medication, and then she knocked on the door, and my blood pressure was that high that she had to call the unit, and they sent me an ambulance. And it was like, it wasn't scary as such, it was just sort of a bit overwhelming. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I remember the guy, there was a man and a lady, both young, probably around mine and Dom's age, maybe if like a little bit younger. And I remember the guy called Callum, and me and this Callum, we were making jokes, and he was lovely. He was like really setting me at ease, because you sort of, obviously, if you're in an ambulance, you start panicking. And he walked through the door, and I said hello, and he was like, hi. Didn't really pay much attention to me at first. And then my midwife was like, right, this is Simone. And he went, oh, we're here for you. And I was like, yeah, like, it doesn't feel like it. I felt fine. Like, if the midwife hadn't have come and took my readings at the time, I would have had no idea that I was in like danger. But she basically, they kept saying like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. They were worried that I was going to basically have a pre-eclamptic fit, because my blood pressure at one point, it was like 160 or 170 over 120. And obviously, not only were they worried about me, but they were also worried about the danger that my baby was in, aka Missy Moo, aka Ava. And yeah, so they blue lighted me to the hospital, and he did say, the only reason I'm going to blue light you is because, you know, you're not in any immediate danger, but just to get us there quick enough, and, you know, if anything does happen, at least you're there in the best place. So it's like, fine. And they took me straight to the delivery suite, which me and Dom were then like, are we having this baby today? And as they hooked me up to the baby monitor, which is again like the straps that they put you on, I think they called it like an ECG or something like that, but I'm pretty sure that's like a heart, like where you have the stickers, I don't know. So yeah, it was all a bit scary. Yeah, they hooked me up to the baby monitor, and they said, can you feel those tightenings? And I was like, well, I can feel like a bit of like crampy tightness going on, but I don't know what it is. And they were like, it's basically like mini contractions as such. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think my body had gone into that much shock that it was basically like forcing my baby out, which I was like, it's clever for the body to do that, but it's also really scary, because if I was at home, I wouldn't have a clue what was going on, because in my brain, they were not contractions. When people say, oh, like I've had a contraction, you always just think like really, really painful. but these were not that painful. Like, I could feel them, and they were starting to get more and more intense, but then all of a sudden they just stopped, and it was like, right, okay. So I had a few doctors come in, and they said, right, just, you know, chill out. If your body starts like labour, then let it. But if we have space, hello, if we have space, we'll induce you tomorrow. So obviously me and Dom were like, oh my God, we're going to have a baby tomorrow. And before we were let go home the first time, they booked our induction for the 21st of January, like originally. So we were like, right, okay. So we were prepared to have her come early because she was due on the 11th of February anyway. But we said pretty much from day dot, we think she's going to come early, just because she was so active, and especially when the pre-eclampsia stuff started happening, we were like, she's not making it to 40 weeks. She's not making it to February, which she didn't. So we were booked in for the 21st of January, which we were like prepared for that. And obviously got blue lighted back in, and it was day after day. I was in there, I think, for a total of, I think it was a week or so before I was induced anyway. I think the total time that I was in hospital, it must have been about 3 weeks altogether. And yeah, pretty much it was, oh, we're going to go with your induction today. We're just waiting for space, blah, blah, blah. So they tried with the pessary first, which is basically like a small tampon that they put behind your cervix that releases a hormone. I had gas and air to be checked first, and I'm glad that I did. And she put the pessary in, which I also used gas and air for, which, by the way, gas and air, some people don't like it, but for me it was absolutely incredible. I loved it, and it helped like a lot. The pessary, I had it in for, I think, a total of 7 hours. You're allowed it in for 24, but it was literally, it was giving me contraction after contraction. There was no break from it. So after 7 hours, they took it out. And then one of the doctors, or midwife, should I say, decided to give me a cervix check pretty much straight after she took it out. And oh my God, the pain was absolutely horrendous. I literally screamed the ward down. And it really upset Dom as well, because he'd never seen me like that before. He'd never seen me in so much pain. And I think it actually upset him more than what it upset me. And yeah, I really wish that I had gas and air for that. So I would say, like, I'm not trying to scare anyone, but if you ever do go for like a cervix check, a lot of people say they don't find them painful, but please don't be scared to ask for pain relief, like gas and air. I don't think I'll ever let anyone give me a cervix check like at early stages of labour unless I've got gas and air, because it was horrendous, and it scarred me for life. I will never like let anyone check my cervix like at the early stages of labour unless I've got like gas and air, because it was insane. Obviously I bled as well because it was that painful. Again, I'm not trying to scare anyone, this is just my own experience. So then we had to wait, I think it was 3 days until they took me up to do the balloon method, which is they put a deflated balloon like up way, like near where your cervix is, and it basically, they put water in it when it's in there, which then weighs, like puts a little bit of weight down like on your walls to make you sort of like not contract, to sort of like open you up basically and dilate you. That was absolutely fine. I actually preferred the balloon method than the pessary. I did again have little contractions, but not as anywhere near as what it was the pessary. And they say that it works if it falls out basically, which mine didn't. I had mine in for the 24 hours, which is as long as you can keep it in for. And by the time that I'd finished, I was 2 centimetres dilated pretty much, which my hospital said it could be different for everywhere. But my hospital said if you're 2 centimetres, that means that they're able to potentially get in and break your waters. So I had the balloon taken out, and that night they took me up to the delivery ward to break my waters. Then I got told that I needed to be monitored because my blood pressure had got up again, which was an absolute nightmare. There was one time when a staff member just didn't give me my medication at night because she thought because my blood pressure readings was normal, she didn't think I needed it. I was like, even I know that the blood pressure medication is supposed to stabilise it. It's not to bring it down. It is to bring it down if it's up, but basically you're supposed to keep on top of it, stabilise it. So I was like, right. I think that was the day that, I needed it the most. I was like, thanks, love. But, mistakes happen. It's fine. There was a few different mistakes here and there in the hospital, but obviously everyone's human. And as long as it's not like a life-threatening or a fatal mistake, then, it can be forgiven. Or obviously life-changing such, but it wasn't. So yeah, I got monitored, and then I think it got to like pretty much 1 o'clock in the morning, and Dom was still like with me at the time. And I said to the lady, I was like, look, is this going to be happening tonight? Because he's not got a bed. He needs to get a good night's sleep, because if nothing's going to happen, then I need him to be on his A game for when it does happen. So this was the night of the 20th of January, going into the 21st of January. And she basically said, you're next in line, but because of like everything that's going on, we're busy, there's staff shortages, we can't tell you when it's going to be. So it was like, right, okay. So he went home. Well, Dom went to his mum's and dad's, which is like 5-minute drive from the hospital, compared to us, we're like 15-20 minutes. So he went to his mum's and dad's to have a rest. And they basically told me that once my waters were broken, they were going to put me on the hormone drip, which I think, is it oxytocin? I could be completely wrong. It's either oxytocin or pitocin. I think it's oxytocin, because I get the two mixed up. Yeah, they were going to put me on the hormone drip in order to get my contractions going. So she basically said, when we put you on the hormone drip, that's when you call Dom to get him to come. So I went to sleep. I think it was about 1:30 in the morning. I was absolutely exhausted, and I got woken up. I think it was 5:30 in the morning. Lovely lady. I can't actually remember her name, but I remember her face. So if I ever did see her in the hospital, I'll be like, you broke my waters. But she was lovely. She was like the head of the maternity unit for that night. And she said, right, we're going to break your waters. I'm going to see if we can like get in there, sort of thing. So she put me on the baby monitor. She was fine the whole time, by the way. There was no problems with her whatsoever up until, I will go into that in a minute. And yeah, she was like, do you want any breakfast? So I think I had toast. She broke my waters, which was an experience. Again, I had gas and air, so I was aware of what was going on, and you can hear them, but it's almost like you can't see properly and you sort of go a bit doolally. So she was like, right, I'm just going to break you first, like your front one or your back one, because there's two like sacs. So I remember she broke both of them, and oh my God, the water that came out literally went everywhere. I thought I'd wet myself. It was mental. And it's not just like one gush, it just keeps like going and going and going sort of thing as you move or as you stand up. So she gave me a massive, massive pad, like massive pad, basically the size of my bum, like my whole bum cheeks and everything. And yeah, put that in my pants. And then she waddled me to the delivery suite, which it was lovely in there. They got me on the bed, and then she said, right, if you call Dom, we're going to put your drip in now, your hormone drip, and we'll basically get you set up for labour. So they put me on the drip. I think it started at like 10:07, maybe 7:30. But then at 7:30, she then had to go home or go for handover and then go home. She was a night shift. So I had two lovely midwives. They were both like young. One of them was sort of like learning as you go sort of thing. But I'd seen one of them before. I can't actually remember her name, but I'd seen her about the hospital before. She was lovely. And she actually reminded me of another member of staff who I used to go to school with, who I didn't realise worked there until after I'd had her. But yeah, so they put me on the hormone drip, and that was absolutely fine. I could feel it working, and I was sort of like breathing through it and everything. Obviously, Dom was there at this point. He got to the hospital, I think it was about 8:00 or 8:30. And yeah, contractions were going well. People were popping in, are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. The staff went on their breaks. Everything was going really well. They offered me pain relief. It was paracetamol and codeine, I think it was. So I took that. And then the contractions started to get quite intense. I think it was probably 9:30, 10:00-ish. So that's when I started on the gas and air. I told my family, like, you know, we're in labour, blah, blah, blah. She's asleep. She's so cute. And then I had one of the senior doctors come in, and she looked at my baby monitor that I was hooked up to, and she said to the other midwife, she said, oh, just be careful, just keep an eye on it, because every time she's having a contraction, baby's heart rate is like going down, basically. And they said, oh, they are old machines, they're due for a massive upgrade, but obviously, you know, just be really careful. So that sort of put me on edge a bit. And I'd asked both of the midwives before, I said, oh, have either of you got children of your own? And they both said no, because this job has like scarred us for life. Obviously, it was sort of like half joking, half, you know, serious, which I get. If you're seeing women in labour every day, you know, in a lot of pain, it will put you off having kids. If you've not already got them, it would me, definitely. So it got to about, I think it was 11:30, 11:45, and I just had that gut instinct that something wasn't right. And there was a contraction where her heart rate went down quite a fair bit. I can't remember what it was, but I heard it on the machine, and I was like, oh, you know, is that normal? And one of the midwives said to me, it's normal because it's not happening every contraction, so like it's okay. And then the next contraction, her heart rate dropped dropped from, I think it was about 130, 140. It went down to 70. It literally, the machine went, ooh. And I just looked at the midwives. They heard it from across the room, and that's when panic set in. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on? I thought at first, because this baby monitor, I don't know if like she could move and it would like kick the monitor off basically. I thought that had happened, but it turns out that her heart rate was playing up because she was being squeezed because of the contractions. And the midwife said to me, we're going to press the emergency bell. Please don't panic. A lot of people are about to come into the room, but it is literally just to check on things basically. And then that was it. All hell broke loose. I'm not even going to lie. It felt like there was about 15 people in the room. It probably was more like 10, but there was literally so many doctors. And I was, at the time, high on gas and air because I was mid-contraction. And they got me to turn onto my side and then my other side. I was laying on my back at the time. Yeah, they got me in all sorts of positions. I heard the words such as, the baby's heart rate's gone. She's got no heart rate. Then it was, oh, it's stabilised, it's okay. And then they found it on the baby monitor again, and then they lost it again. And then it's, oh, it's stabilised. And there was two doctors having pretty much an argument. One was saying, oh, it's stabilised, it's fine, don't worry, everything's fine. But then there was another doctor, which I'm thanking that she was in the room because I don't know what would have happened if she wasn't. She basically said, if this has happened before, it's going to happen again. We need to get that baby out now. And Dom, I couldn't even find Dom at the time. There was that many people in the room that I'd lost him. And when I set eyes on him again, he was in tears. And that is the first time I've ever seen him cry. He never, well, he probably does cry because obviously everyone cries, but he never cries in front of me. And I was like, this is serious. Then I lost him again. I remember being injected in my leg to stop the contractions. There was so much going on. I was obviously in floods of tears, getting upset, thinking my baby was in trouble. And then they were like, we're wheeling you down to delivery. You're going to have a C-section. And it was like, oh my God. I had to whip. I had like a nightie. It's from Primark actually. It's really cosy and comfortable. It said Bump Club on my nightie, and that was the nightie that I wanted to wear to give birth in. So I had that on. They were like, take that off. We need to put like a hospital gown on you. At that point, you don't care who sees what. So I whipped it off as best as I could. I was completely, I say bollock naked, but I've got no bollocks. So I was completely naked. They put the hospital gown on me. Obviously, they do try and cover you as best as they can to obviously, you know, keep your privacy. But at that point, you don't care. You just whip it off, do whatever you need to do. And yeah, because I hadn't had an epidural and I think they didn't have time to do a spinal block, basically. They ended up having to put me to sleep with anaesthetic. I remember them wheeling like me down to theatre, and beforehand I saw Dom again and I said, it's okay, don't worry, we're going to be fine. And he was on the phone and I said, who are you on the phone to? And he was like, your dad. And I was like, oh my God, this is really serious. So yeah, wheeled down. I remember saying to the people wheeling me down, if you need to save either one of us, please save my baby. And they were like, no, it's not going to come to that. You're going to be absolutely fine. They wheeled me into theatre, which I can't remember what it looks like. It's all a blur to me. All I remember is seeing this table. They got me to climb onto the table from my bed, which was literally, it was next to it, the same level. So I just needed to basically scooched my bum up a little bit. My hospital gown didn't follow me, so people helped me to put that back on, and they got me to lay down. It was actually, from what I remember, it was actually quite comfortable, to be honest. I remember there was a guy in there, quite like middle-aged guy with bright blonde hair. I saw him after I gave birth and I was like, oh my God, he helped me in surgery. It's just crazy what you remember. And I remember feeling someone put in, you know, the liquid that they put on, like the cleaning liquid before you have surgery. I remember feeling someone put that on me. There was someone that put a mask over my face, like an oxygen mask. And they said, right, breathe this in, really deep breaths. You're going to feel drunk, but don't worry, you're not. And then with that, I was asleep. Like, it was absolutely wild. And then I woke up to Dom sat in front of me with no top on, and he was holding this one, our baby girl. It was crazy. And yeah, so from what I remember, I thought I said, is that our baby? And he said, yeah. And I said, is she okay? And he said, yeah, she's fine, don't worry. But he's told me that I put my head up and I said, is she okay? And as soon as he said, yes, she's fine, don't worry, I then apparently went, oh, and then I put my head back because I was like, she's safe. But yeah, she was absolutely fine. She came out fine. I think she had to have like a little oxygen mask on because obviously she was dead on 37 weeks. So she was literally only just not premature. And they said that she needed a little bit of help with her breathing when she first came out, but that, I don't think she was on it for long. She weighed £7.4. She now weighs over £10.10, the chunky monkey. And yeah, she was happy and healthy. The only thing that I am upset at is obviously you picture having a really good birth and you think, oh, I can't wait to hear that first cry when she comes out and for her to be put on my chest, and then obviously me and Dom to see her together for the first time. And then I was planning on breastfeeding, which didn't work out in the end because I didn't hold her for like 2 days because I was in no fit state to look after her at all. I gave her a kiss on the head because one of the nurses brought her up to me on day 1, but I was on that high a dose of morphine, and obviously I'd come out of anaesthesia that I was completely out of it. Like, I can't even remember pretty much the first 2-3 days where she was born. But yeah, she made it here safely. It was crazy. To be honest, I don't actually remember being in a lot of pain as such with my C-section for the first few days because obviously the morphine. But that feeling of when you get out of bed for the first time after having a C-section, you honestly feel like your insides are going to fall out. Like, I don't want to scare anyone from having a C-section because obviously some people have to, some people choose to, you know. But honestly, it was the weirdest experience ever. Like, you don't realise how much you use your abdominal muscles until, you know, you have sort of like surgery or until you struggle to use them. But honestly, it was wild. But now looking back at that experience, I think to myself, like next time I have a baby, if we have another, if we're lucky enough to, would I just opt to have a C-section and have it planned? And then, you know, because now I know what that experience is like, I think that would scare me less than what a vaginal birth, because I've not experienced that. But apparently the hormone drip got me to 4 centimetres. Also, I forgot, whilst they were trying to find her heart rate, they had to put like a little clip thing on her head to try and get the heart rate sort of thing, just to monitor it. And I think that did work for a little bit, and then they lost it. So, but yeah, so it was crazy. But she's here now. We spent an extra 5 days in the hospital because of my pre-eclampsia. My blood pressure was the main thing that I'd experienced afterwards. My swelling like pretty much went down a week after, and I've not had any flashing lights since I think it was the day of that I gave birth. So that was really good. Pretty much most of my symptoms went, apart from the blood pressure, which I'm still sort of getting monitored on at the minute because it is a little bit borderline still. But she was absolutely fine. She had a bit of jaundice, so she had to go in this like phototherapy little incubator thing, which was next to my bed. Luckily, they just wheeled it down. But yeah, generally, like, it was a very manic, and I do still get flashbacks about it now. I must say, like, in a negative way, because it was just a roller coaster of emotions. And, you know, any sort of like, we have to go past the hospital in order to get into like my city centre, and it's just a little bit, well, we don't have to, but we do, because yeah, it's just the easiest way to get there. And it's just very, yeah, like you have flashbacks and you're like, I never want to experience that again. But obviously you do it for your children. But I wouldn't regret a single thing. She's absolutely beautiful. I do wish, I mean, we've took loads and loads of photos, but I do wish that I'd sort of had a bit of like a birth vlog to give to you, but I don't. I didn't record once in the hospital because I was put on a bay, like different bays. So obviously there's people like there with you, which I don't have the courage to record in front of people. And not only that, but for other people's privacy as well. And then obviously getting home with her, you just, like, obviously there's people that naturally do it, that do it as a job. But for me, like, it was that busy and you're that tired. And obviously there's a lot of recovery that goes into a C-section that I just didn't even think like it was my last priority to pick up my camera and start recording. I say my camera, I do it all on my iPhone, but you know. But yeah, so it was a wild ride, but we are here, we are safe, and we're healthy. And she's a little monkey, especially last night when we had to take her on a drive in order to settle her. But yeah, generally she is a really good baby. She was really, really, really content when she was in the hospital. She wouldn't even cry for a bottle or anything, really. She had a little cry a couple of times, but generally speaking, she wasn't fussy at all. She was just really, really quiet. Can't really say the same now, can we? But she's currently having a little doze. But yeah, honestly, if you're wanting to have a baby, don't let it put you off, because having a baby is literally the best experience ever. It is mental, and it is tiring. People honestly didn't warn me. Like, people said, oh, it's really tiring, you know, it's really hard. And you think, oh, how hard is it for a little tiny baby that just literally sleeps, feeds and poos all day. No, it's difficult. She wakes up every 3 hours for a feed, including at night. Even though recently she has got longer at night, she will now go around 4 hours instead of 3. So last night she woke up, well, she went to bed at 1:30 because she didn't settle. Normally she goes to bed about 11, but then she didn't wake up till 5:30 for a feed and then woke up at 9. So yeah, we're getting there. But yeah, she is generally a very good baby. But we are in love with her though. She is absolutely gorgeous. Both me and Dom are so happy with her. Like, we're obsessed with her. She's beautiful. Yeah, I do need to make more of an effort to upload more photos on Instagram, but when you've got a newborn, like, social media isn't your priority. Your priority is your baby, and mine is probably a little bit too much of like trying to keep the house tidy and epically failing, but we're all good. Yeah, I need to look after myself better. Like, don't get me wrong, I had a shower on Mother's Day, which was 2 days ago. So, oh yeah, I had my first Mother's Day as well. But yeah, I've just been in my own little bubble when it comes to me and my baba. But we've had a lot going on in the background. I'm hoping to get more consistent with my YouTube again. Can't promise anything because obviously we've still got a little baby and she's very demanding. But I do enjoy YouTube, and obviously apart from having her and housework, which is basically my life at the minute, we don't really have an awful lot else going on. So yeah, it's just all a little bit crazy, but we're in love with her. We're so in love with her. She's just gorgeous. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave this video here because I have been recording for almost 53 minutes, 52.5 minutes, and I've obviously got to edit this and watch it back and, you know, all the rest of it. Probably won't be a lot to edit out, to be honest, because yeah, apart from when I say all the time. But yeah, and on that note, I'm going to see if she'll go down in her Moses basket, and I'm going to try and have a sleep because I'm shattered. So yeah, that's that. But thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for listening. If you've made it this far, she does this and then goes straight back to sleep. Yeah, thank you all for listening to my little story. If you've made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back because it's a long video and it's literally just me talking to the camera. It's nothing really sort of interesting. I'd have probably clicked off by now. And yeah, come on. We've lost our scrunch. We've lost our We've lost our newborn scrunch. We did have one, but that went because now she likes to use her legs to push up and try and crawl. But, you know, we're not getting to that part just yet, are we, girl? Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you for listening to my very long-winded and traumatic birth story. And yeah, hopefully see you guys very soon. You're completely awake now. It's okay. Are you going to say bye? Say bye. Does she look like me? Quite a few people have said that she looks like me. But then a lot of people have said that she looks like Dom. Like in the eyes. It's a big yawn. We're getting there with the head control as well, bless her. Oh, you say that and then you start wobbling it. Come on then, we need to get you down for a nap because otherwise you're going to be a monkey tonight. Right. See you in my next video. Bye everyone.